Good day. This is Jason Dean live at Film Fanatic headquarters. It's 11:25. So today's show is on a movie I actually been wanting to talk about for a while, and I just never got to it. And it was a movie that I never thought would be as good as it is, and that is 2008's Rambo. I picked this up at one of the second to last street sales at Opera House Video. I've been doing a series of videos lately where I recently went to one of their big street sales and bought a whole bunch of movies. I didn't have all that much time to stay at the last one, but I still made a lot of good purchases. They had another sale earlier this year, and I bought this then, and I bought a ton of movies. And it's funny because I did not see this movie. It was directed by Sylvester Stallone. It was also written by Sylvester Stallone. My two favorite movies of his long career, and of course Sylvester Stallone being a an icon of the action world, particularly in the American action world, total household name. My two favorite movies of his would definitely be, it's a close toss up between uh, First Blood, the first in the franchise, and then also Rocky. I love those movies. They're just iconic. I have First Blood on Blu-ray. I don't own this. This is a DVD copy. And it's funny because I used to go to the way I found out about this movie. I only saw this movie for the first time maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, and I used to go to Opera House Video, which is the only video store here in Maine. And I used to go there pretty much every weekend. And back when I used to go there, back, a few years back, there were these two brothers that used to work there. And they used to have different hours. They used to be open Sundays. They were open longer. Now their hours are a little bit more funky, and they're not open. They open later in the day. Sundays they've been closed for a while. But I would go every weekend, and a lot of the times I would go on Sundays. I don't go to Opera House Video as much, only because the last 2 or 3 years, I really got into buying movies and collecting movies. And so I acquire tons of movies. So you know, I have tons of too many movies here at Film Fanatic headquarters to watch, which is not which is not a bad thing. But I have tons of movies to watch that I've been buying, and so I don't really need to be renting as many movies. I still go there, a couple times a month. I try to stay up on newer films, and so that's what brings me there. But there were these two brothers there that had really great taste that used to work there, and I typically would go there on Sundays. And they had, great taste in movies. And one of the movies they always talked about was this movie here, Rambo. And I didn't see it. I heard about it when it came out in 2008, but I never saw it. And I was, it was one of those movies I just thought, well, okay, I don't know. I didn't really have an interest. I like the franchise. I like the Rambo franchise. I think they're all just solid movies. The first one being amazing, but I think they're all pretty good. And but they kept saying it, Rambo, the one this kind of new movie that almost acts like kind of this return to form for Sylvester Stallone. So it was almost regarded as like this comeback movie for him. He had taken a long hiatus at this point, at that time, as far as being the action star and making movies. And so I remember renting it due to their recommendation, and I was blown away. I'm like, this movie is so amazing. Like, um, it's just so badass. And so I bought it a couple of weeks ago, or actually a few months ago, and I've been meaning to do a show on it. And I watched it again last night, and it I have seen it probably 3 or 4 times at this point, and I think I love it more and more each time. it's an incredible action movie. I mean, Sylvester Stallone directed this movie. He also stars in it, and he also co-wrote it. And the thing about this movie that's really unique is there's like two things about this movie that make it really a real standout film. Is it's it feels kind of like a documentary. This movie is really raw. It's super raw. It is very topical. It talks a lot about. It takes place. The story itself takes a place in Asia when there were, the genocides that were happening in Myanmar, which it's literally ripped from the headlines, and so the film talks and is the story is set in that part of the world where you have these, basically execution squads, and so and the way the film is shot, it feels so raw. Like it feels, especially the first half of the movie, it feels like a documentary. Like the way the video, or the way the actual movie itself is shot, the even the grain of the camera work and the cinematography, it feels super real. And so it has this different vibe from any other movies. Very realistic. The other factor about this movie is it is so over the top violent. Like it's so gory. It's like, I mean, heads exploding, bodies exploding, limbs being chopped off, you know, just total slaughter. That and I was really like, holy shit! Like this is next level. Like they don't make action movies like that anymore. Everything is kind of like sanitized now, and this movie is brutal as all hell. And I have to say that this movie is just as good as First Blood. Again, it's so different though. It's again, it feels so real. It feels like a documentary, but yet the action element of this movie is just incredible. The the action sequences and the battle sequences in this movie are really pretty mind blowing. Like when you really get down to it, um, the the camera work, the cinematography, even the direction, the fight choreography for these big, and there's these incredibly large scale action sequences in this movie that are pretty unbelievable. Um, and I kind of feel like when I watched, and I've seen this 3 or 4 times. I kind of feel like it's, just a kind of a masterpiece as far as the scale of this movie, the size of the movie, the budget. It feels also like it's kind of low budget and to a degree for what it is. It kind of feels low budget, even though it is a big action movie, but it has this really super raw quality to it that you never see in action movies now, especially now. I mean, back in the day, you saw that, like Predator, but you never see that now, definitely. And so it has an interesting balance. Like it feels big, then it feels like it is a documentary, or it has a very documentary kind of a flavor to it or aesthetic. Super gory, super violent, so over the top, a lot of suspense. It's really great. It's a fantastic movie. I think it's also like kind of like one of the greatest action movies I've ever seen. It's just an incredible movie. I would love to buy this on Blu-ray. I don't own it on Blu-ray, but this DVD copy is really great. It does not have really any special features, but I got it for like $2, and I watched it again last night, and it was probably, I think it was like my third or fourth time seeing it, and I found myself enjoying it. I've gotten into this movie more and more each time uh, that I've seen it, and I just think that this movie truly kicks ass. Some of the greatest action sequences I've seen. It's definitely out of the franchise. It's definitely the best one aside from the first Blood. Definitely, and I mean, this movie is brutal, and it is truly. I mean, action is king in this movie. When I think too of the scale of this movie and the all of the pieces that were involved with because it does have this giant palette where there are these huge war battle scenes, and it's pretty amazing how you can see everything that's going on. A lot of the times with like newer action movies, everything is very frenetic, or like where there's a lot of editing, and so everything's choppy, and sometimes you can't really see everything because it goes by so quick. And it's a style, but I think sometimes it can hinder your experience because everything's a blur. You're not really seeing everything because of this quick kind of editing thing. But I think the way this movie was done is there's so much going on in some of these battle scenes, but yet you can see all the detail. And the choreography around these battle scenes, and then also the hand-to-hand combat scenes, is pretty extraordinary. Like really, really good. And I think if you're an action movie fan, this is like badass. Like it's one of the greatest. And I don't know. I can't remember if this movie was very successful or not. I was incredibly late to the game until seeing this movie, but it's the bomb diggity. It's one of the greatest action movies that Stallone has ever been attached to, and I think it's one of the greatest action movies that I've ever seen. I mean, if there was a list, like I'd say a definitive list that was made, where you were gonna pick, say, your top 20 action movies, this would definitely be on it. So thanks again, and we will see you next time. Peace.